Gray sky bled into night. A blanket of fog, thick and heavy, clung to the winding road. Twilight painted the world in shades of gray, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. Inside the car, Sara gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white.
Are you sure this is the right way, Lily?
She asked, her voice tight with worry. Lily, her gaze glued to the GPS, mumbled,
It should be, but the fog...
Her voice trailed off, swallowed by the oppressive silence. The headlights cut through the fog, revealing only a few feet of road ahead. Each turn brought a fresh wave of unease, a sense of being watched. The air inside the car grew heavy, thick with unspoken fear. Sara could feel her heart pounding against her ribs, her breath catching in her throat. The silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the rhythmic thud of the windshield wipers, was deafening. The GPS signal flickered, then died. Lily swore under her breath.
Great, just great. Now what?
Let's just turn around. This doesn't feel right.
But as she went to make a U-turn, a figure materialized from the fog, standing in the middle of the road. It was tall and slender, shrouded in a dark cloak that seemed to absorb the light. Sara slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt just inches from the figure.
Did you see that?
Lily whispered, her eyes wide with terror. Before Sara could answer, the figure moved, gliding towards the car with an unnatural swiftness. Its face was hidden in the shadows of its hood, but Sara could sense its gaze, cold and piercing, burning into her. Panic welled up inside her, choking her. She threw the car into reverse, her foot heavy on the accelerator. The engine roared, tires screaming as they struggled for grip on the slick asphalt. They sped away, the figure receding into the fog, its laughter echoing in their wake. Sara's heart pounded against her ribs, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white, her eyes scanning the fog-shrouded road ahead. The silence was broken only by the pounding of her heart and the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers.
Did it just laugh?
Lily asked, her voice trembling. Sara couldn't answer. She didn't want to believe it. But the memory of that chilling sound sent shivers down her spine. As they drove, the fog seemed to press in on them, suffocating them with its eerie silence. The headlights cut through the gloom, revealing only a few feet of the road at a time. And then they saw it again. The figure, standing in the distance, shrouded by the fog. It wasn't moving, just watching them, waiting. Fear, raw and primal, surged through Sara. She pressed harder on the accelerator, desperate to escape the figure's unwavering gaze. The car lurched forward, engine screaming its protest.
Slow down, Sara. You're going too fast.
Lily cried, clutching at her seatbelt. But Sara couldn't stop. Not now. Not with that thing out there. The headlights flashed on a sign ahead, the words barely visible through the swirling fog bridge out, detour. But it was too late. They were already upon it. The bridge loomed out of the fog, a hulking silhouette against the twilight sky. It was old, made of wood that creaked and groaned under the car's weight. Planks were missing, gaping holes revealing the rushing water far below. And at the center of the bridge, shrouded in the thickest fog, stood the figure.
Sara slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The car skidded across the slick wooden planks, tires screaming in protest. She braced herself for the impact, the sickening crunch of metal and wood.
But the impact never came. Instead, there was a strange, disorienting shift. The fog around them swirled and pulsed, morphing into grotesque shapes that writhed and contorted in the headlights' glare. The air crackled with an unseen energy, sending a jolt of electricity through Sara's body. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped.
Lily gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. What just happened?
Sara looked around, her heart pounding in her chest. The bridge was gone. The road was gone. They were surrounded by an endless expanse of fog, the only sound the eerie silence of this strange new world. The silence was deafening, broken only by the panicked thrumming of their hearts. Sara stared out the windshield, but the fog was impenetrable, swallowing the world beyond the car.
"Where are we?" Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. Sara shook her head, fear tightening its icy grip on her chest. "I don't know, but I don't think we're in Kansas anymore."
A pair of eyes, glowing with a malevolent green light, materialized in the fog ahead. They hung suspended in the darkness, watching, waiting. Then slowly, more eyes began to appear, dozens of them surrounding the car.
Sara felt a scream rising in her throat, a primal shriek of terror. These weren't the eyes of any animal she knew. They were something else, something ancient and evil, something that wanted them dead.
Adrenaline surged through Sara. She had to get them out of there. She threw the car into gear and floored the accelerator, the engine roaring its defiance into the oppressive silence. The car lurched forward, tires spitting gravel as they fought for traction on the unseen road. The eyes followed, floating effortlessly alongside them, their malevolent glow burning into Sara's soul.
"They're right behind us," Lily shrieked, her voice high with terror.
Sara didn't need to be told. She could feel their presence, cold and menacing, closing in on them. The fog seemed to cling to the car, trying to drag them down, to swallow them whole. The road twisted and turned, a dizzying labyrinth with no escape. The car careened around blind corners, the headlights painting fleeting glimpses of a world gone mad. Trees twisted into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air crackled with an unseen energy, making the hairs on Sara's arms stand on end.
"We're going in circles. I know it now. No matter how fast we drive, how sharply we turn, we always end up back in the same place, surrounded by this ever-present fog and those glowing eyes."
The realization hit Sara like a physical blow. They were trapped. There was no escape from this nightmare. The fog had them now, and it wasn't letting go. Despair washed over Sara, cold and suffocating. She slowed the car to a stop, her shoulders slumping in defeat.
What's the point of fighting anymore? We're never going to escape this place.
Lily was crying softly beside her, her face pale and streaked with tears.
"We're going to die here, aren't we?"
she whispered, her voice trembling. Sara wanted to lie to her, to offer her some shred of hope, but she couldn't. The truth hung heavy in the air between them, suffocating them with its finality. The glowing eyes had stopped moving. They were all around the car now, forming a tight circle that pulsed with malevolent energy. Sara closed her eyes, waiting for the inevitable. The expected attack never came. Instead, a low hum began to vibrate through the fog, growing steadily louder until it filled their ears, their very bones.
"What's happening?"
Lily whimpered, clutching at Sara's arm. Sara didn't know, but she could feel it, a pulling sensation, like gravity itself was shifting around them. The glowing eyes began to fade, their light flickering and dimming as the hum intensified. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the hum stopped. The fog thinned, revealing not the familiar road, but a desolate landscape bathed in an eerie green light. Twisted alien trees stretched towards the sky, their branches bare and gnarled. Sara and Lily stumbled out of the car, their legs shaky beneath them. The air was heavy, thick with the stench of decay and the faint metallic tang of blood. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the twisted trees.
Where are we?"
Lily asked, her voice trembling. Sara shook her head, her gaze scanning the alien landscape.
I don't know, but I don't think we're in our world anymore.
The realization hit them both with the force of a physical blow. They thought if they were lost, at least they were free of the monsters and could find their way home. And as they stood there, silhouetted against the eerie green sky, they heard it. A dark, demonic figure rose from the ground and said, "You didn't think you could get away with it. You see what I want you to see, just like every day for the last 10 years.